Jesper has 15 years of leadership experience and has twice been nominated Executive of the Year by the leading Swedish business magazine, Chef. Chef or Chef?
Not Chef, Chef in Sweden.
Which is boss.
So he's a graduate in marketing and communication from Uppsala University, as well as being an alumni of LBS as well. His career spans over 20 years, mainly within pharmaceuticals, biotechs and medtechs as well. Has gained extensive experience in new product launches and team motivation. When Jesper became head of diabetes care at Roche Diagnostics 3 years ago, the future was looking bleak. Sales were down, profits were plummeting, staff morale had never been lower. A year after he came on board, the operating profit had nearly doubled. 3 years after, profit versus planned was higher than 100%. Yet the products were the same, the prices were the same, and the people were the same. The solution lay in a simple 3-letter word. Why?
Thank you. Are you going to give me a hand too, to start with? Oh, wonderful. It's always better to get that. You get that energy kick. So, so now Paul actually told you the story, so I don't have to say much. And it's great to see Jules again. And Jules, it was you were one of the inspiring people I met here in 2009. And my story starts in 2009 with coming here, not to this specific room, but it was a room upstairs, I think. Met Jules and Julian and a lot of the other fantastic teachers and professors that you have here. You've heard about the experiment, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but my story today is about the inspiration and the learnings I got from being here in 2009. And really, it has actually taken me quite far, and my knowledge and experience has really gained momentum on it, and that's why it's so exciting to be here and to share my story with you and hopefully inspire some of you to do something like this for your company. So anyway, so enhancing, this was the idea we came into with, and at Horizons, the first night, you actually are supposed to present your idea to the rest of the participants, 40 people. And I tell you, that's scary. You have to come up with an idea and present it, and then people will choose, will they take your idea or will they take someone else's idea? I mean, I was terrified. But I had an idea that actually people liked. And my idea was around the Net Promoter Score as a concept. And Net Promoter Score, I'm not going to go into details here, but it's Bain & Company, and they use it in marketing. And it's that one question, the ultimate question. Would you recommend this, for example, business school to someone you know well? And then you rate it from 0 to 10, and the idea is you want to have a lot of people saying 9 and 10. Those are your, promoters, ambassadors, if you will, and you want to take away all the people saying 0 to 6 because they are your demoters. And then the 7 and 8s are basically, they're not going to do anything for you, so you can take them out. And then you want to have more people in the 9s and 10s versus the 0s and 6s. Easy idea. My idea for the experiment was around leadership or the manager. So I tweaked it a little bit. I said, maybe we can ask the question, would you recommend your manager to someone you know well? So that's what we did. And it turned out, and we did this over 1,500 people, all the 7 continents, I guess, and I think it was 11 countries. So it was really a truly global program. But it turned out that, if your manager is perceived to be good or get good ratings even from his manager, the people under him or her is actually feeling more engaged. So we got that. And that was it was exciting, and I can tell you Roche is actually using some of this, they continue to use it in the ratings that we do as a company, and we're an 80,000 people company. So it's pretty impactful, and you can actually make a difference. But what I learned, and this is more where the journey then started in 2009, from this experiment, I learned the impact of engagement. And I can see people looking now, and if you don't know Scandinavian, you're looking, what is this? Well, this is Swedish, but I think you can figure out the headline. Engagement, but the work engaged, but not much more. And this is actually from a Gallup. Gallup came out in 2013, I think it was the last one, and they do these engagement surveys. And it's truly global. And what I took from Horizons was the importance of engagement, and that's the link to this slide. In this Gallup survey, it shows that only 16% in Sweden feel engaged at work. Most of them, around 70%, actually feel so-so, and the rest is actually negative. And you know what? Sweden is not a bad example. We're actually better than the average in Western Europe. In Western Europe, the average is 14% is engaged. Most of them are so-so, and then you have about 20% not feeling engaged at all. In China, it's so worse. You have 4% engaged. Most of them are feeling sort of like nothing, but you have 26% that actually would do bad things to destroy for the people, their colleagues, rather than seeing the company succeed. So engagement is clearly something, especially if we're in HR, that we need to focus on. If we can get people more engaged, what would happen? Well, based on what you heard, the wonderful talks this morning, about the strategy that Julian presented, and then we heard about the organizational structure. If you can get people more engaged, your results will actually improve. And I think about this as, I think about it as a bicycle with 10 bikers on. I couldn't find that, so I have these 4. But anyway, if you think about it, 10 bikers. Most companies today have 1.5 person in the front there biking the heck out of themselves going forward. Then you have 7 people on the bike just sitting. And then you have 2 actually braking. And if you think about that, that's the average for all the companies in the Western world. Okay, so talk about bicycles. I also want to make it into the talk today is about purpose, and I also want to bring it into me. How is it important to me, the engagement? And I would like to say that every change starts with oneself, okay? So when I had this experience from Horizons, all this engagement stuff that I knew was interesting, then I actually did something, and I biked around the lake. Personally, I biked around the lake. Now, you see the lake here, and I don't know if anyone know about this race, but you bike around this lake. It's 320 kilometers long, ridiculous. I don't know why I did it, but it was sort of like, it's proved something. Halfway through, when I came here, my engagement was really low. It was a cold day. You start very early in the morning, and you were supposed to bike all day. It took me almost 12 hours. All right. At this point, I was ready to quit. But when I came into, there's this depot where you go and you can get something to eat. And I got off the bike and I was ready to quit. And then I heard a guy being interviewed. Actually, it was an old man being interviewed. So I got interested, and I went up there and I started listening. And it turned out to be Gustav. Gustav was over 90 or 85, looked like sort of Santa Claus. And he was standing next to one of those momentous bikes that's extremely heavy compared to my really lightweight bike, nothing like it, heavy bike. And they were talking. And halfway through the interview, he said, so Gustav, how many races have you done? And Gustav said, I've done all of them, 35. Okay, all right. And what about today? Are you going to continue and do the race today? Yeah, he said. Of course, I've never, ever quit any race. over the last 35 years. So yes, I'm going to do it. What do you think happened with my engagement? At that specific point, Gustav is going to do it on that bike. Here I am. I have to do it. And actually, if you are familiar with the Norwegian philosopher Arne Næss, anyone heard about Arne Næss? All right, here we have some Norwegians. Arne Næss has a wonderful, actually, formula for this. And I come from pharmaceuticals. And we always have to prove things in, is it really true? And here is, Arne Næss actually proves that engagement, if you want to drive engagement, and you would say purpose, then you need to understand this. He says, engagement equals fire times fire divided by suffering in your body plus suffering in your soul. All right? Now you laugh, but I tell you, this is a very, very good formula to have. Because if we put 100 as a base, this would be, okay, so we say, what would be the engagement level if 100 is base? Fire times fire, 100 times 100, what is that? 10,000, great. Divided by suffering 100 plus suffering in body, soul 100, that's 200, isn't it? All right? What is this? What is the engagement level if we have 100 as baseline? 50, yes. All right. So, come back to my biking experience. Fire, and you can take, or any company, say that you're working on fire, or I would say purpose, engage, or getting people fired up. And you improve that by 50%. That's what happened when I heard about Gustav biking. My fire went up, 50%. If we do that, what do you get? So we have 150 now times 150, which is a little harder. 22,500. Yes, I've done this many times, so I know it. Then you take the suffering part. So suffering in body, 200, because now we're actually increasing the suffering by 100%. We take the fire up by 50%, but we increase the suffering by 100%. What, if you take in your company environment, this would be layoffs, for example, Bring up fire, we got to do this, but we have to do it with less people. All right, or in my case, it was, of course, I had to continue to bike from here all the way to the goal, which is actually right there. Okay, so you take the suffering up by 100. So you get 200 plus 200, which is actually 400 then. You don't have to do that. But now comes the magic. What is the engagement score? If you increase fire by 50%, but you get suffering up by 100%, what is the total engagement? 56.25. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why focusing on purpose and engagement is so important, because you can take you through some really hard and difficult times, even though you just increase the fire by 50% versus the suffering of 100%. Okay, you with me? Make sense? The second thing that happened to me after Horizons was I met a wonderful coach. A great leadership coach. This is Alice. I had the privilege of being home with Alice more than 8 months. In Sweden, we call this paternity leave. And I tell you, if you're interested in leadership, go on paternity leave. It's true. It's nothing better. And the thing with kids that are so wonderful is you learn from them the important things you need to have with you when you are a leader. And one of the best things about kids is they're here and now, and they're really curious. And they will tell you what they think. So I think I brought that with me. Being curious is going to be a really important factor, success factor for you when you go forward. So all of these things, the Horizons program, me biking around that lake, and me having 8 months with Alice was sort of like the things that prepared me for this. Suspense. What did it look like? Pretty dark, yes. And we heard from the intro that 3 years ago, I was asked if I was interested to take over the diabetes care in Sweden and Finland. Okay? What are the first things that you usually ask when you're sort of, do you want to take on a new job? What would be the question you ask?
Why would it be interesting for me?
Why would it be interesting for me? Yeah? Anyone else?
What are the expectations from the industry?
What are the expectations? Yeah? Okay. That's good questions. How the state? Yeah, I mean, what I do, maybe I'm a bit, simple. I ask, so how's it going? Now, tell me about this team and how is it going? All right, so this is the business plan they showed me. Clearly, it's not going great, and I've taken out the numbers because it's irrelevant, but basically they had lost, if you say 200 up there, when I met them, we were at 100, and they were thinking we were going down to 50. Basically, that was the situation. So they didn't, things were going terribly wrong, and they didn't see a change in the horizon. So the next question I asked was, okay, I mean, this is not, fantastic, but tell me about the team. Tell me about the team. Is it a great team? Are they engaged? And at Roche, we do these engagement surveys. Every year we do engagement surveys. And actually, they showed me. It had just come out. And 22% was the engagement. And based on the Gallup, it seemed like we're doing much better. But I think Roche is clearly not using the Gallup way of measuring, because we say that you should be around 70%. Between 65 and 70% is where the engagement should be. But it's not the engagement that was low that was the big problem. The big problem was the disengagement. The disengagement in the team I was asked to take over was close to 70%. Now, go back to the bicycle thing. You had 2 people biking, you had 1 people sitting, and then you had 7 actually braking. All right? So here was the situation. All the parameters, what you look for when you come into an organization, look pretty bad. The engagement, disengagement high, sales were going down, operating profit was going down. Aviva ASP is the average selling price for the main product that we sell, was actually going down because we had upcoming tenders. And basically 75% of the total sales was up for tenders. And anyone work in tenders? Okay, I can tell you tenders are terrible. Usually what happens in tenders, price go down. All right, so basically looking at this map, you could say, well, whatever we're selling today, it's going to be much harder to sell the same next year because prices will definitely come down. And then we had a slew of products. I think we had basically more than 100 products that we were working on in one way or the other. All right, so a very unfocused team.
Just describe what the products do.
So what we do, in terms of, we are in diabetes and we help people get their measurement, their blood sugar level. If you have diabetes, you have to get control of that, and you need to know your blood sugar value. So that's what we do. We provide tools that actually help people get that value. And then we also sell pumps. But then, of course, there's all kinds of products relating into this. So that's what we do. All right, would you take this job if you were me? Seeing opportunities, I guess. It can't get much worse. But, all right. But what are the things that you think my boss said to me to start focusing on? You're HR people, most of you, so you're going to say people, I guess, But I can tell you, he's no longer my boss, but he's German, and he's very good in many ways, but he's, in that sense, very focused on one thing, and that is the result. So he said, if you take this job, you've got to turn around the results. And what my story is about is actually doing the complete different. What you need to understand if you want to drive up engagement in any team is that nothing starts with results. Everything starts with engagement. And you know on an S, and you know why engagement matters. So what I did when I said, and I guess it wasn't that many people lined up to take over this job. So when he said, are you interested in taking this? I said, yeah, I am, under one circumstance. And that is you give me 6 months where we don't talk about results. Okay? And why is that so important? I'll come to that. But now I just want to touch on one really important thing when you come in. Nothing starts with results. Everything starts with people. Okay? People. Now, what are the first thing that I learned about people is when, for example, we're not thinking the same all the time. And I know that from going out for a Friday beer with my wife, for example. This is me thinking, going out Friday to have a beer. This is my wife thinking, going out Friday with a beer. It might not even be a beer. It might be something else. But I think as a leader, this is important that you understand this. Not just because you say it doesn't mean they understand it. Okay? What is true for me might not be true for someone else. And I think that's a critical thing. The second thing is, as a leader, you must understand the importance of the power of the people. If they decide not to go with you, you're going to be pretty lonesome out there and you're going to fall. Okay? So this is the second thing that, if everything starts with people, you need to understand these two concepts. The third thing is nothing. I say there's only two musts in life. I don't know if you have this, that people come to you and say, we must do this. Has that ever happened to you? We must do this? All right, I say there's two musts in life. The first must is we must die. It's the price we have to pay for living, is that one day we have to die. But the second must is we must choose. All right? We must choose. And that means when people come to you and say that we must do this, it's not true. It's okay, but tell me why we have to do it. And again, we heard about the why, the importance of why. But here, as a leader, asking the question why is going to be a fundamental changer for you and also allow you to drive up engagement. So choice, not circumstance, determines your success. So the concept of that. And this is all true when it comes to dealing with people, as a leader or in your role as HR. And the way to change people is to get them connected. And that's what this talk today is about. It's connecting the dots from this morning, from Julian's talk into Richard's talk. And then hopefully now when I explain what I did, taking a lot of the things you heard today, the theories, into practice. And if you do that, you connect. And by connecting, you engaged. Okay? So what are the things to focus on? And what are the things, based on my bicycling experience and based on my, spending 8 months with Alice, when I came in that day in April 2012, where did I start? Well, I already told you, I started with saying I need 6 months. My German boss, bless his heart, he said, no, I'm not going to give you 6, I'll give you 4. Okay? So we negotiated, I said, okay, 4. So I got 4 months. And what did I do with those 4 months? Well, I used it to actually get the engagement up already a year later to 75%. From 22% and a disengagement of 66 to 75% and 0% disengagement. And this is what happens in sales. And actually, and I guess this is coincidence, but that's the end of my 4th month. So I continue actually to losing the first 4 months, but then suddenly something happened. So now you know it works. And it works. We've been growing ever since that, after 4 months of starting. So now we've been growing every month since that day in a market where it's the same market. And we're having the same people. I have not fired anyone. I have not brought in any new people. They are the same. And we're selling the same products. So everything you'll hear now is about how you get the engagement in the team. And we heard that this morning. The first thing you have to do is to build trust. Now, trust, of course, takes time. It's not something you can, get right away. But one thing I did was when I came in new to diabetes care, I didn't tell them that they had done things wrong because I didn't focus on the results. Instead, I tried to get their trust. And by doing, how do you do that? Well, you start to listen. So I had 4 months. So what I could do is I could take 1 day per each team member and be with them 1 day to get to know them. That might not be possible in every company. But I've been doing these kind of talks now for quite some time, and it turns out most organizations, when it comes to leadership, you're basically controlling 25 people. Those are the people that you have closest to you. And of course, you can all spend, the equivalent of 20, 25 days and get to know those people really well, because that's going to pay off big time. And that's what I did. So I spent time with them, not asking why things are going so bad, but instead listening and trying to understand this business. And that's a good way to build trust. And then, of course, you have to say the truth. And this is a true ad from the Times, and it's Lord Shackleton. I don't know if everyone knows about Lord Shackleton and the Endeavour. It's a fantastic story. This is the ad he put in the paper where he was looking for men to go with him on this expedition. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. Apply here. But as a leader, or when you come in and you're building trust, and the link here to this ad is you have to be honest and tell the truth. Don't lie about. But you have to say it in a trustful way. So don't point finger, but be sure to address the things that are not going so well. And then I love this quote from Nelson Mandela. Another thing you need to understand is in any team, you have fear. And then, of course, you need to have a way to address that fear. I use the 5 aspect as a model to actually get to create a common language. We don't have time for that today, but I can, another time maybe if you're interested, the 5 aspect really helps to lay out a foundation where you will speak the same language. Because we will all come into fear now and then in everything we do. And as a leader, you need to have a way to take people out of that fear. And then now we're touching on the bring purpose to life, because of the other part, if you have the language, but then, reflect your hopes. And that is what purpose is. So the next part of the leadership house is about why, or you could say the purpose. And this is a wonderful quote from, I don't know if you've read Le Petit Prince, okay, The Little Prince. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. That's the purpose. So don't go tactical, go long-term strategical. Why are we building this boat? It's not about, building the boat, it's about what we can do with the boat. And finding why is not a process of it's a process of discovery, not invention. What I mean with this is you can't get your management team to sit around the table to come up with a vision. That's not how it works. It's not. I mean, the vision is in your company already. It's embedded there. The trick is to get it out people, if you talk to them long enough, and there are some sort of engagement somewhere there, they will tell you. And that's how you get your why. And what I did, I brought everyone in the second week, because during my talks with the people I met, I always asked about our why, and no one could tell me the why. We didn't have a why at Roche Diabetes Care. We didn't have a purpose. We had all kinds of ideas around a purpose, but they were not about what I'm trying to convey here today, about what touching people, how you connect and bring out engagement. So I said, okay, if I'm not getting it from the top, let's do it together. So I brought everyone in, 2 days at a really fancy conference site, or it was a castle style place, really nice. A lot of incentives to be quick here. And I said, we have 2 days, and I only have one set of questions. These are the questions. If we can get these questions answered in 2 hours, you can do whatever you like for 2 days. All right. Big time incentives. For whom and why shall we do what? Now, how long do you think it took to agree on the for whom? Now, we've been in diabetes for 50 years. How long? 5 minutes. The Norwegians are believing in us. Half a day. Half a day. Anyone else? It actually took us, it took us a day and a half and a little bit more. A day and a half and a little bit more. Almost the whole 2 days. And the reason why it's so hard, it's because when you come to, for whom are we really here for? Then you are trying to come to this notion of customers, and then it gets really, really complicated. Who are our customers? And then to make sure you differentiate your customers to for whom you're here for. So after a day and a half, when I said, things are not going, as fast as I would like, so I said this. Okay, well, think about it. Who would really miss us if we disappear? Would a nurse miss us? Well, maybe the free lunch. Would the doctor miss us? There are many other companies out there. But if we believe in what we do, and we're doing a good job, who would really miss us if we disappear? Yeah, people with diabetes. So we got that. We're here for people with diabetes. Hallelujah. All right. Then you have to understand this, and this is really important. Because what is good for our company, or what is our company good for? The bigger the company, the more likely you are to answer the first question. We talked about startups in the morning. And startups tend to be very connected to the purpose, and they are very good at answering the second question. What is our company good for? But the bigger the company, the farther away you are from for whom you're here for, and therefore you start thinking about what's good for our company. And then you hear this in the vision statements of companies. If you ever read a vision statement that says, we're going to be number one, or we're the market leader, what is that? What are they really answering? What is good for ourselves? It's great to be market leader. I can set whatever price I like. Now, but that is not necessarily best for whom we're here for. So after those 2 days, we actually managed to agree on an outside-in vision. And we're here to enable for people with diabetes to live their life as unrestricted as possible. And as you can see here, this is a purposeful mission, and it's very including. We're not excluding anyone. And as a matter of fact, if there's a nurse out there who also has this vision, that's great. They can come with us on this journey, on our path to make a difference in the world, to make a dent in the universe. And that's what visions and meaning is all about. So what we then did, and this is going to Simon Sinek, if you're familiar with him. So thinking, it starts with why. When you know for whom, the outside-in perspective, then you go into yourself. And then you answer the first question, the why question. Then you take it to the how. And at the last point is what you actually do. And just to set the scene, to make you really understand what I'm trying to tell you here is, this is the story of JFK. And in 1961, he did something. He held a speech at a college in the US on the East Coast, where he said, before this decade, we're going to put a man on the moon. Anyone familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what he was really doing, for whom was he addressing this to? Well, he was really addressing it to everyone on this planet. And he wasn't excluding anyone here. Now, why are we going to do that? Well, it was the space race, and it was, there was the Russians, and there was actually the Western world, or with US. And he wanted to show that democracy is superior than other types of government. All right? Now, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to do it by making the impossible possible first. And then you come to the what. So what are we going to do? Well, before this decade, we are going to put a man on the moon. So this is how this model works and how it, so I hope you see sort of the logic. Now, there's another sub-story to this, and I say story because it's probably not true, but anyway, it brings out the point. Now, in 1961, after JFK had held this speech, he was going to this, it was an air base somewhere in the US. And this is why it's probably a story, it said that the president got lost. So, he lost his crew or whatever people around him, and then maybe he went to the bathroom. And then he came out and it's like, no one is here. So he steps out into a big, huge hangar. Empty space, but some planes at the very end. And then he walks up because he sees a man in the middle of this sweeping the floor. And then he goes up to the man and says, "It's a private." He said, "Private, what are you doing?" And the man looks up at the president and says, "Mr. President, I'm putting a man on the moon." But really, this is the what. When the what really matters, when you connect it through the how to the why, and then for whom, that is when it gets powerful. And of course, any organization who wants to work on purpose needs to understand this, but also do it themselves. Make it into their work. And we've done it, and this is our story for people with diabetes. We enable them to live their life as unrestricted as possible. How we do that is by, we're in the business of changing behaviors. We know that, the values itself is not enough to change behaviors. You need to do something else. And then you come to the what we actually do, the products we sell. Okay, so that's the importance of why. Now, when everyone is on board on the why, you can actually focus. And this is the next part of the house. Focus. And I told you we had 100 products, and we were very, very all over the map. In August, we met again, and we decided on our strategic focus for the team. And like I said, we had 100 products. So I brought everyone in, and I said, now we know, we have more of a trusting environment. We now know our why we're here. We're here to enable for people with diabetes to live their life as unrestricted as possible. What are the products we're going to focus on? And of all those 100 we had before, we decided on two products. One of these blood glucose meters and one pump. And going back to Henry Ford, we talked about him this morning as well. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And again, when you have people on board understanding the why, the focus then becomes so much easier. So, just one quick true story. we met there in August, and in September, I got a call from one of the reps. So what we do is we have people that go out and meet nurses and doctors to sell our products. Okay, and I said we had 2 products we decided on, and one was the pump, an insulin pump. And the thing with insulin pumps is, it's highly technical. Much more, the computer capacity in an insulin pump is much greater than the rocket that put the man on the moon there. So, it's highly, highly technical stuff. So you can't really say that our pump is better than any of the other pumps on the market, at least not in the Western world. All the pumps on the market are very good. So based on the why, when we had decided on the focus, we had come to realize that if we're here to enable for people with diabetes to live life more unrestricted, the pump itself is not really where we make a difference. But what we have, and none of our competitors has, is we have a remote control to our pump. And the remote control can, of course, make a difference for people who don't want to play around with the pump. You can actually instruct the pump to give you insulin through a remote control. So in September, I have this sales rep. She's calling. She's on her way to meet one of the big clinics in the south of Sweden. And she sounded really excited. And she said, Jesper, I feel so engaged about all the things that we've done. And I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I said, fantastic. So what are you going to do? And she said, I'll call you afterwards and tell you. And again, coming back here to the importance of trust and why, I was like, okay, well, we haven't ever sold a pump to this clinic, so I was like, okay, fine. Go ahead. Call me afterwards. So 2 hours later, she calls me up and she said, I've sold 2 pumps! Fantastic! You sold 2 pumps. I mean, selling 2 pumps to a clinic that never had used them before. It's amazing. So I said, how did you do it? And she said, yeah, well, I came into the meeting. It was 3 nurses and 2 doctors, all female. It was a summer day, and I had my beautiful dress on. And I came in, and I started the meeting. Halfway into the meeting, I stopped, and I said, you know what? I'm being a diabetic myself. Doing presentations like this, you get stressed, and then, of course, you have to control your blood sugar. So I've actually instructed my pump to give me some more insulin. And the nurses looked at her, and the doctors looked at her and said, no, you haven't. Yes, I have. How? Well, maybe you were thinking I was actually going to my purse to do something else, but I was actually in the purse instructing the pump through my remote control to give me some more insulin. Now, did she get the sales here? No, but what she got was actually attention, interest, all right? And here's how she got the sale. Because after that, she said, well, it's really interesting that you say you didn't see me do it, because if I hadn't had the remote control, I'm pretty sure you would, because then I would have to do this, where she takes up the dress all the way, and she has the pump underneath her bra. Okay, this is in Sweden. Might not work everywhere. But the point is that she was actually focusing on the important stuff. If you're a teenage girl, you can't wear whatever clothes you want. You are restricted by having diabetes. Having a remote control, however, will make your life more unrestricted. And of course, the nurses, they saw immediately, I have two girls. They would love this pump. I'm going to go for it. So again, if you want to change behaviors, you have to help them see the why, and then help them in terms of the focus. Then I come to this part of the house, which I love, and it's about joy. And this is a quote from John Lennon. And when I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. I told them they didn't understand life. And as a leader, this is really important. I mean, he has a very good point here. And I actually separate joy into 2. There's joy at work, and there's joy in work. Okay? And now, so that you will remember this, let's take away the at work, because this is what happens when you have the Friday beer or you have that kickoff or whatever you do that, at work. But the in work is what really matters. And that's the campfire stories you as a leader need to have, because that's what you need to share. And just to give you an example, now take the blood glucose meter we sell. Picture yourself, you are in Stockholm and you're going up to halfway up Sweden, which is about a drive of 6 hours or 5 hours. And this is the situation for many of my reps. So they go up 6 o'clock in the morning and they drive and they drive and they drive, and eventually they come. Maybe they're there at 10. And they have their meeting and they talk about our products. Afterwards, they're invited to something we call in Sweden fika, which is you drink coffee. And of course, you have to drink a lot of coffee in a dark, cold country like Sweden, so, to keep yourself awake. So we drink a lot of coffee, and you're invited to come share the fika with the nurses, okay? So you're sitting there, and you're drinking coffee, and you're talking, and the discussions are going everywhere, and it's really nice. What do you have right there at that moment? That's joy at work. You're at work. You're still, it's 10:30. You're drinking coffee with these people. You're not making any sales. You're not connecting to our company, but you're really enjoying yourself. That's joy at work. But suddenly, the discussion turns towards Peter. Now, Peter is 35, and he's had diabetes since he was 5. And you know what? He's been terrible in getting his blood glucose levels in check. Terrible. And of course, a consequence of that is he's probably going to suffer and might even die early because he is not controlling his blood glucose levels. So the nurses are really concerned about Peter. But when he got that meter, the new meter, and I'm not going to go into details what this meter does, but it's different from the others. When he got that meter, suddenly he's testing himself. Fantastic. So now Peter is actually doing much better. Now, that story, when you hear that story, that's an example of a story, joy in work. And of course, that is also a story that will drive motivation. And that's something, the more those kind of stories you have, your organization will actually benefit from it. And then the last part of the house has to do with creativity. And why is creativity important? Well, especially if you're going to change things, it's really, really important. And this is Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. For while knowledge defines all we currently know and understand, imagination points to all we might yet discover and create. And if you are changing your business from something, of course, this is going to be very important. Okay, so here's another true story. When I had been there roughly 6 months, maybe even a bit longer, maybe a year, the team came to me and said, you know what, there's this big diabetes convention in Stockholm, and we want to make a difference there. Yeah, so okay, fine. What do you want to do? Well, we're going to rent a booth and blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, and I said, fine. How much is a booth? The square meter cost for the booth. And they showed me, and I looked at it, and I said, oh, man, we're not going to go there. It's too expensive. No way are we going to pay those kind of money. And then the team said, well, but we must go there. And then again, I said, no, there's no must in life except two. So tell me, explain to me why you think we need to be there. So they said, well, if we're not there, we're not seen, and then people will think that Roche has stepped out of diabetes, and, and people will wonder, and that would be no good. Okay? So I said, fine, I'll give you a challenge. We're going to be there, but I will rent the smallest booth possible. Actually, it was a booth about sort of the size of this table. And I said, okay, and then I would like, so the challenge is, come up with an idea where we can have, in this booth, where we can explain our story from the why our vision, into concrete examples of people with diabetes and how we make a difference. And if you can come up with an idea about that, then of course we can be there. And I'll rent that booth. And this is what the team came up with.
At Diabetes Forum in Stockholm, AccuCheck wanted to live their unrestricted vision by offering visitors a new type of expo experience. An experience which wasn't limited by the four walls of a traditional booth. The solution was to develop an app for smartphones and iPads through which visitors could see more than meets the eye. The app uses augmented reality, a technology which makes it possible for the visitors to explore AccuCheck products and services in a virtual digital world, only visible through a smartphone or a tablet. Visitors simply download the app from App Store or Google Play and point the smartphone or tablet towards the AccuCheck Tree of Life to explore the virtual content. By using the app with a specially designed brochure, visitors could also bring the experience home. The finished installation became the buzz of the expo, engaging visitors in a way that would have been hard to achieve with a traditional expo solution.
So what do you think of the team? Were they creative? Give them a hand? Yeah? All right, so what they came up with was this virtual reality stuff. So we basically had this tree, and this tree represents stories from people with diabetes, telling us how it is to live with diabetes. So you see a tennis racket there. Was a guy who told us, you know, having diabetes is really restricting me because I can't play tennis as much as I want. You had a kid there with the ice cream. He said, you know, oh, having diabetes, you know, I can't eat ice cream anymore, not as much as I want to. And then the balloon up there was Maria, 35. And she said, you know, ever since I got diabetes, when I was 13, I always had this dream about one day going up on this air balloon. But because I've been so afraid of what would happen with my stress and all that up there, and people in that small compartment up there, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, so therefore I have not done that. You know, so she's been restricting herself, not living her dream. Now, when you connect that to the products we do, where you can get the link, and that's how it works. You basically take a tablet and you point to that story. You're telling the story. We're here for people with diabetes. We want to help them live their life as unrestricted as possible. Maria, she has never done, you know, going up on that air balloon because she's been so afraid. But thanks to, and then you point the smartphone to the air balloon, and boom, in virtual reality from the tablet, our product pops out. And that's how you get the link. You start with a why, and then you come to the what. And that is really, really powerful. So, you heard about it. By having this focus, building your leadership house, you can create an environment where engagement can flourish. It really can become sort of like a power cooker. You know, pressure cooker is maybe the word, where you can actually, if this is intact, this engagement can become really, really strong. And that engagement will actually create better results. And of all the things we do in leadership and as a leader, all the things you have to worry about, the important thing is, I actually asked Alice, so you will remember this. I asked her to draw a house, so you will remember this house. But as a leader, what you need to focus on is this house. Because you need to make sure that everything here is intact, that you don't have a leakage. Because if you do have a leakage, for example, trust leakage, which is the worst, then of course engagement is going to pour out here. And then you're not going to have the potential you have in your organization if that house is intact. So all the things you have to focus on, make sure that the house is in good order. And then I sometimes get the questions, yeah, but you know, it's easy, but this needs to start from the top. You know, purpose always starts from the top. If you don't have the big guy up there, or big girl, believing in this, you can't make a difference. Now, And I would say I prove them wrong. I am in the middle of the organization. I'm not, I mean, you know, I'm many layers up to the big guy, but I started with my team. I started with the 22 people I had around me. We created this based on a lot of the knowledge and learnings I had from here in London Business School, theory-wise, but also other things that I picked up. And it's interesting to see now that people up there are now starting to listen because the results are outstanding. And of course, then they start asking, what have you done? And I said, that's interesting you asked that question. And then I can tell them. What I've done is creating an environment where people want to go, not because they have to, but because they want to. And that is, you know, the purposeful leadership. And that's what bringing purpose to life is all about. Thank you so much.
Has anyone got any questions at all for Jesper after that?
So this is still quite, I mean, I think your story is amazing. I've taken that home with notes. I'm just wondering about longevity. And I think back to the bicycle and kind of the push, and you've got your kind of team cycling. Do you think there'll be a point where the house will need to be re-energized, we need a new race or something new or a refocus? Just wondering, kind of, the graph doesn't always continue upwards necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's a really very, very valid point, and that I bring this slide up because I think, you know, as a leader, your job is not to become that person, you know, to be sort of connected to the house. Your job is basically to create an environment where people will take over so that you can step out. And that, of course, is, you know, why am I here today? I'm not doing my day-to-day job. I'm here. Well, one of the reasons is I can actually be here because I have now good people doing this. And the only chance for them to actually be able to do it is that I'm not there. So as a leader, then you come to a situation where, you know, I need to step out. I need to step out more often. But you do that because you want the other people to come, and that is about the longevity of things. But it will be hard, and I think then the purpose also helps you. Because if the purpose stays, and that is something, that is what our company is good for, and if you focus on that, most of these other things will actually fall in place.
How important do you think it is that the purpose is written by people versus the senior leaders at the top to give the sort of direction of where they want the organisation to stand for, what they want it to stand for and what they want it to be?
Well, I think, I mean, as much as possible, you should, you know, invite people to, you know, come with ideas and share their opinions. I think the question of what is our company good for is a great question to ask, because then you can ask for everyone's opinion. I can get it in, and then I can, as a leader, take responsibility of taking all of these ideas and then craft some sort of, you know, is this a vision statement that you think aligned to what you think our company is good for? So I think both is important. So invite as much as you can. Again, if you have the time and chance, go out and talk to people to get their opinions so that they feel involved. And then again, be the manager. We know that, you know, and that comes back from my first experience here 5 years ago. We know that people that feel engaged are very, very likely to say that they have an excellent manager. So if you try to be a good manager, then people actually will be more engaged. That's what we showed. And I think that's your main, what you need to focus on. So invite as much as you can, but take responsibility for the, you know, the outcome. And again, you are, as a leader, this is your job. People can do all the other things, but the house is your job. And every day you need to look at that house. Is it in good shape? Because if it's not, then you know I need to focus there before I do anything of the other stuff I have to do.
Do you think that the current Roche overall purpose of doing now what patients need next is having as powerful effect on the enterprise as a whole as your purpose has had on your team?
I think it's actually starting to see more and more, that kind of effect. What I've done is I've linked enabling for people with diabetes to live life as unrestricted as possible, links very nicely to doing now what patients need next. And I think that's what happens when you have, what Julian talked about, if you don't set up too many rules, people will figure it out. I mean, I figured it out. I can connect those two. But that's not true at all levels of the company. But more and more, we do have, from senior management now, all the way down, an understanding of the importance of focusing on people with, the people that we do our things for, the meaningful. So I think it will change over time.
I have a question for you. Thank you for giving us the organisational perspective. What about you as a leader? Have you got your own personal sense of purpose, and if so, what is it?
Yes, it's a great question, and I do have my own purpose. And that purpose is now more why I'm here. Because, okay, I've been blessed to, being able to come to a fantastic course like, the Horizons. I learned a lot of stuff there. And then I did some other learnings, as you saw. And then I've been given an opportunity to come into a team and turn it around. And, the best thing is really not about the numbers. The best thing is when I walk into that, the room that we're sitting, to see the faces of people, to see the engagement. That's a kick in itself. That's, wow, they are happy now. They're engaged. So my purpose now is to share this, what I feel, knowledge. Anyone can do this, but you need to follow some sort of logical structure. And I think here is where sometimes, at least for me, I get a little confused when I go to, courses and all these things. You start, are we in the how now, or are we in the what, or are we in the why? What I'm trying to do is put it really simple. You always have to know for whom first, then you get the why, then you do the how, and then you come to the what. And when that happens, it all connects, and you build your house, then you will have the same experience as I had. And that's my purpose now. If one of you, that's enough. If one of you go home and say, you know what, this Jesper guy, he actually had a point. Now, maybe I didn't really understand everything, but this I will actually do different tomorrow. And that's going to have a positive impact on your people. Then I'm happy. Anyone else?
Can I just say, I don't want in any way to suggest that you have an easy job, because you obviously no, honestly. But I would say that probably connecting your purpose and your vision to people's health around the world is in itself so noble. I mean, it's just, that would speak to anyone. So I would, and so in one sense, I think it's very, very encouraging to hear your very inspiring talk. On the other hand, working in oil and gas, I can't help wondering what will make my people burn with the same sort of thing that you're really, really doing something to improve other people's lives. That's going to be a harder story to come up with. We may need 4 days in that class.
But yeah, but I think if you start with for whom, and I guess for you it's going to be about people, all the people, we all need oil and gas in one way or the other.
But I think that's, you could then say, yeah, sure, you say that you do that for everybody, but actually you do it for stakeholders. So it's going to be a harder, I think it takes more, maybe even more, it wasn't easy, but it takes even more determination to get to deep dive into what exactly is the reason why you're doing what you do.
But I trust your people. Yeah. I think the answer is in your organization already. So that's where I would start.
Yeah.
So I'm the other oil and gas person in the room. We spent the last 2 years of our leaders on leadership purpose. We've had a real focus on it on a lot of our learning programs. I came in cynically into some of that, if I'm honest. It's been transformational for me to see how somebody that's found their purpose very authentically, very connected, doing some really great things. So we can make things offline. But it's been amazing how they found that story. It's been really compelling and transformed some of our businesses.
Good.
Excellent. So you're already networking. Yep.
When you started out on your first day getting to know people, how did you approach them? How did you sort of crack it? You came into a team that was quite disengaged, possibly quite cynical.
Yep.
And you didn't come in having all the answers. So how did you manage that?
Well, I will never forget my first day, because the first day, when I was introduced, they had just heard about the engagement score. And basically this was the lowest engagement score of the whole company. And basically people, it was a funeral. And I stepped in and I said, hello, here I am. It's great to be here, myself. And then people look at you and say like, oh, who's he, blah, blah, blah. But then I continued being myself and asking questions and trying to be sort of like authentically curious, learning from Alice. Like here, I don't understand this. I don't know anything about diabetes, but I want to know. Tell me. And after a week, actually I had one of the product managers came knocking on my door and she said, Jesper, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah, sure. What do you want to ask? Well, we've been talking. Are you for real? And I said, what do you mean? Well, some of us think that you're one of those optimist consultants from HR. You're so happy. But I think that's me. And after a while, again, trust is not something built overnight, but over time, they see, I am kind of the positive, energetic guy, and I'm really interested to know how we can make this better. So that's how I did it. So it wasn't like it was like that. It took a while. So.
Jesper, everyone. Thank you.